Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into the very heart of the Indian Constitution. We're talking about the core promises it makes to every single citizen. So, let's just start with a really big question. What kind of promises should a country make to its people? What are those absolute non negotiable guarantees that really form the foundation of a free society? Well, in India, the answer to that question has a name: the fundamental rights. And let's be clear, these aren't just nice ideas or suggestions. They are essential, guaranteed, and, this is the most important part, legally enforceable human rights for every single citizen. No exceptions. Now, these rights aren't just thrown together in some random list. The Constitution is actually really smart about this. It organizes them into 6 core guarantees, which creates this powerful blueprint for liberty and justice. Let's break it down. That's right, there are 6 of them. 6 major categories that, when you put them all together, form the very foundation of personal freedom and democratic life in India. And here they are. Think of this as our roadmap for the rest of this explainer. We're going to explore the big ones like the right to equality and the right to freedom. Then we'll look at specific protections against exploitation, the freedom of religion, and finally, the one right that kind of holds all the others together, the right to constitutional remedies. So let's jump in, starting with the first 2. And honestly, you can think of these as the twin pillars that hold everything else up: the promise of equality and the guarantee of personal freedom. First up, we have the right to equality. This is covered in Articles 14 through 18 of the Constitution. And the core idea here is simple, but it is so profound. Every single citizen is equal in the eyes of the law, period. And this is where it gets really practical, right? This means no one can discriminate against you when you go to a shop or a restaurant. It means you're guaranteed a fair shot at government jobs. And as you can see with Articles 17 and 18, it takes a hammer to old social hierarchies by completely abolishing things like untouchability and hereditary titles. And just look at this. This is one of the most socially revolutionary articles you'll find in any constitution anywhere. For centuries, the caste system created brutal discrimination, while Article 17 doesn't just discourage it, it abolishes the practice of untouchability completely and makes it a crime. It's just this incredibly powerful statement on human dignity. Okay, so let's move on to that second pillar, the right to freedom. This is covered in Articles 19 to 22. And this is the stuff that really breathes life into a democracy by guaranteeing our personal liberties. This is where you find all the freedoms we tend to think of first, the freedom to speak your mind, to gather with others peacefully, to live and travel anywhere you want in the country. It also protects your right to life and liberty, and even includes the right to education. Now, it's worth remembering that these freedoms aren't totally absolute. The government can put reasonable restrictions on them for things like national security or public order. So, if the right to freedom is about what you can do, this next set of rights is all about what cannot be done to you. Think of them as specific shields, protecting citizens from certain kinds of injustice. First, you've got the right against exploitation. This is a direct assault on inhuman practices. It flat out bans human trafficking, all kinds of forced labor, and putting young children to work in dangerous jobs. It's a constitutional promise to protect the dignity and safety of the most vulnerable people in society. Then there's the right to freedom of religion. This one is huge. It guarantees every single person the freedom to believe in, to practice, and to share their faith. It also lets religious groups manage their own affairs, and, this is critical, it stops the government from using taxpayer money to promote any one religion over another. All of this really forms the bedrock of India's secular identity. Okay, so we've covered equality, freedom, protection from injustice. But let's ask the most important question. What happens if someone violates those rights? Well, that brings us to the final, and you could argue the most important right of them all. This is the master key that unlocks everything else. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The main architect of the Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he called this specific right the very soul of the Constitution and the very heart of it. He said that without this one article, the whole thing would be basically worthless. So what is it? It's Article 32, the right to constitutional remedies. And here's what it does and why it's so powerful. This right gives every single citizen the power to go straight to the Supreme Court if they feel any of their other fundamental rights have been violated. It's not just a right, it's the right to demand your rights. So how does it work? Well, The Supreme Court uses these powerful legal tools called writs. For example, it can issue a writ of habeas corpus, which literally means you shall have the body, and that forces the state to bring a detained person to court and justify why they're being held. Or it can issue a mandamus to order a public official to actually do their job. These writs are the legal teeth that give the fundamental rights their bite. And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. Without Article 32, all those other rights we talked about, they're just beautiful promises written on a piece of paper. But with it, they become real, living, enforceable guarantees that every citizen can claim. So let's just look at our roadmap one last time. From equality and freedom all the way to the powerful remedy that makes sure they're real, these 6 fundamental rights make up the unbreakable promise that the Indian Constitution makes to its people. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? A constitutional right is only as strong as the citizens who know it exists, who understand it, and who are willing to defend it, not just for themselves, but for everybody else. So the real question is, what role do all of us play in making sure these guarantees aren't just words, but a lived reality?